All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond Sunday. This is another special PNA Connect edition. And this one is kind of maybe especially fun for Devin and I because we got to invite some of our church family into this. So, Carrie and Melissa, you are part of our Next Step family. Matt, you're part of the C3 family. How are y'all doing tonight?
Great. Thank you.
Good. Awesome. Well,
Doing well. Doing well.
good. Thanks for saying yes to this. We asked specifically the three of you to join us because you got to come and be part of this Connect experience with us this year, which was it's cool to bring leaders and people on staff to something like this, but it's especially cool to come and hang out with with our church family and get to experience and share that together. And so we're gonna dive in just a minute to the things that God said or the ways you felt him work and move while we were at Connect a few weeks ago. But before we do that, take a look at this short video.
Okay. All right. As we dive into the conversation, let's first share what was the highlight from PNA Connect from Friday night all the way for those who stayed through Sunday morning service at New Horizons. But share a highlight, something that was a moment that still sticks with you even today.
There were many instances where something was said that just felt like it was talking to me, talking about God's timing, where the eagle is waits for the right wind to be able to fly. And it just reminded me of waiting for God's perfect timing for things. Also, there was a moment when that's something that you had said that just really hit me hard because it made me realize that I don't have to be perfect at what I do in my prayers. I can let God do the talking for me. And there was walls I needed to bring down and just open myself up more to allow him to do what he needs to do. And that has made a difference. I have felt a difference with my prayers.
So for me, for a long time, I just struggled with not feeling like I had a purpose or a place of belonging, especially when it came into church, because when I was married, I was away from that faith for a while. And I was nervous about going into it. But once I got there and I walked in, like I just felt this overwhelming peace. I felt just a warm welcoming, and God really spoke to me, and I felt the Holy Spirit for the first time in many years. And I've been trying to figure out like what my purpose is here. And I definitely am feeling the call to ministry. And since I've accepted that, because I was in denial for a while, but since I've accepted it, I just feel like more and more I am having these moments with people who I've never met that are telling me that talking with me is so peaceful and calming, and that, I'm exactly what they needed in that moment, that person to talk to. And I had one of my patients on the phone tell me today that I have a call to ministry and this is where my purpose is. And she didn't even know anything about my background. And so I definitely hear God talking and I'm leaning into it and I'm welcoming it and just, trying to figure out what his purpose is. But I definitely feel like where I was where I belong. And listening to everybody speak, I was so drawn in and there was so much that I took from it. And like my mom said, with the eagle and soaring, and I definitely feel like I'm on the right path and like I do have a purpose and a place and a belonging.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, for myself, I really enjoyed just getting, well, it actually started before even getting there. I got to be with one of my kids. He was driving over with me, and just a great time to capture that moment, to be there with him in the car ride and to spend 5 hours just getting to hear what God's been doing in his life. And so it kind of set that weekend up really well, and just had a great experience of being with others. And really, I think um, just being in fellowship with other followers of Jesus that are leaders in the church was exciting, to get a sense of that we're not alone, that in the midst of our own individual walk or in the midst of our time in church, we're not isolated, but that there's others that are around us, that are in that in the ministry with us, even though we don't see them on a regular basis. So for me, that was the fun part, getting to reconnect and see just see some people that were intensely focused on looking for God in the midst of their ministry and in the context that they're in. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Community and family, which I think uh, there was a lot of things for me as well. But one of the things, especially as we're having this conversation with specifically those of you on this call, like Melissa and Carrie, we went into that weekend having spent 3 weeks, I think, in this practice of Sabbath together and learning like what it looks like to Sabbath and to walk that out. Our two churches collectively or collaboratively doing that, and there were a few times throughout the weekend because this was over a time that we are now practicing Sabbath, and there are a few moments I remember like having the conversation of like, this is such a great way to practice Sabbath together, and if only like this could be. And there's something about like even what you just said, Matt, but this feeling of like being together with family, even though maybe it looked different than it looks like a typical Friday, Saturday for me to Sabbath with my immediate family. There was this sense of like in the room, if the purpose of Sabbath is to create space to meet God and to do that in a collective way with others in community, that's what it felt like it offered. And so it was cool to have so many people who are like, this is all part of the family, and we get to actually step into this space and hear from God together was a really cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the extended time together is something that still sticks with me today, that to be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that even on I think some of us went out on Saturday night. There was a baseball game going on, and so we go out, we're watching the game. Other conversations are going on of varying depth and of both in the realm of sport, but also in the realm of spiritual. And it just sort of back and forth, and things that we were able to share as we went out on Saturday night. But then it even continued into Sunday as we see each other at church on Sunday morning and we're back together worshiping. And it just, yeah, that long extended weekend that we get to, come together and be intentional about hearing from God, worship Him, and also play. I mean, all of it sort of weaved in together in such a beautiful sort of way that God was providing space and time for that. And that isn't. I guess that's not a typical. I wish it were, right? People coming from all sorts of corners, but we can't. We're in our different. We have a very large association, so to come together on this particular moment and weekend to do both the worshiping God, hearing from Him, and the play, weaving in, just help to bind together things that were like, oh, there might be something here, some relationship, to really like, oh, there's relationship that though we may not see each other for 2, 4, 6, 12 months later, there is a sense of that relationship coming together and being woven together that you really can't pull apart what God has brought together in that kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get to experience or encounter God and hear from Him together, there's something about that. And then when you get to celebrate, and whether it's just celebrate being together or Sabbath, or like Carrie had a birthday and had like the most ridiculous dessert ever that I've ever seen that she was celebrating there. But those kinds of things, like we wouldn't have known or gotten to be, to see pictures and be part of that if that didn't take place in that space, or to, watch the baseball game together, or those kinds of things like that, to be able to do that together. Yeah, there's something about playing together.
Yeah.
That's cool. So beyond just, I guess highlights or kind of the overall thing, if there was a specific part of it or a specific space maybe that you were like, you know what, I just keep coming back to that thing, like what maybe was the thing, if it was a conversation you had or a speaker you heard or one of the songs or something like that. If there's anything like that that sticks out, we'd love to hear.
Well, for me, too, how we had the activities on the side that you guys had set up. So I did do all of them. Actually, I missed one. So I did all but one. I forgot about a table. And foot washing. So I guess I did all but two. But anyway, for me, there was a station where we had to write a letter to ourselves, as if, I think it was as if God was speaking to us, is what it was. And there was a lot that was said in that letter that I needed to hear. There was a lot of stuff I was holding on to for many years. And the other station was the one with the rock that you had to put on top of, you're giving it all to God and you're letting that go. And so I had a lot of movement, spiritually and emotionally, and just being able to let go of that darkness that was just hanging in the past and hanging over me. And it just allowed me to be more open to.
Yeah.
I think for myself, there was a reoccurring theme of just time and season that kept coming up. Just in the travel over and kind of seeing the scenery, but then also in the midst of just conversations with people about just God's timing. And I think it's one of the things that I've been recognizing more and more and more in my life is that that my timing and God's timing are not always very aligned. I think things need to be happening on a lot faster basis than what God does. And so I think it was Pastor Zoe talked about that a little bit, and there was it was a phrase that he talked about of being open to where God is leading, but at the same time not being frustrated with where you currently are. And for me, that's just a tension that I'm holding on a regular basis. And I feel like, as God leads us into different places, we think that means that, okay, it's going to happen right away, or it's going to happen, in the next couple months or maybe even a year, but the idea of God moving in our lives, but we still remain where we're at, and focusing on being faithful in the midst of the waiting.
Yeah.
Was kind of just a reoccurring thing for me that I've carried forward into the last couple of weeks.
Matt, one of the things, so a number of years ago, I was in a season of like uncertainty of maybe what God was calling me to or where he was calling me, and maybe some stubbornness of like, I'm pretty good where I'm at, I don't hear you, that kind of a season. And Pastor Jeff, who pastors up in Bellingham, one of our sister churches, the phrase he said to me in that season, which pinged as you just said this, he told me that one of the best, or the best posture that we can have as a follower of Jesus, is to be content with where we're at and open to where God's leading. And in that moment, it felt like a slap in the face because I was like super content with where I was at and super not open to what God might be leading me into. And God moved really powerfully in that season. And even through that, it's kind of become a joke for Jeff and I, because even through that sentence, which he's like, I don't really remember saying that. I'm like, oh, you said it. But in exactly what you're talking about, this like the rhythm and the timing and the cadence of God, but also a like, will I be content here? But also like sitting in that tension of like, I'm content here and ready and waiting and willing if
Yeah.
here is not what you have for me any longer. And that can be a really hard place to sit and exist.
Yeah.
I just really like the closeness, being close with God. That whole time, it was so restorative for me. I went into it so tired and full of anxiety, and I just came out. And I think I told you, Shay, it felt like to me like this is what a Sabbath was supposed to be like. It was just restored me, and listening and hearing God, and all the things that were said. There were so many moments that just spoke to me, and even the conversations at the tables with other people. It was amazing how we could relate to each other and the things that we shared, and just some really good comments and discussions going on, and the whole thing. It was so good for me.
Well, and Carrie, thank you for being a part of the prayer ministry for PNA. And how many members are on the PNA prayer team?
I think there's 7 now. We just got a new person.
Great, yeah. And I know the
Yes.
goal is having a prayer partner, a prayer warrior on that team for the PNA prayer ministry, from representing every one of our churches that are across the association. So room to grow there, but also many of you were there, right? From the prayer
I
team.
I think I only met one. I mean,
Okay.
just myself. I think I was the only one.
Handful, yeah, okay. But to know that like we have prayer warriors who are praying for our PNA family. And so not just on a PNA Connect weekend, but ongoing, this is continuing to happen. And so thank you for being a part of that. And I guess that's part of the sticking with me, is this knowing that there are ministries going on across our association that in many ways I get to benefit from, I get to partner with, I am encouraged by. And so when we come together in like at PNA Connect, I get to hear these stories of things God's doing, and how he's moving, and how these and I always get excited with being able to see how God's connecting dots that I didn't see before until that very moment. I'm like, wow, this is so cool, how this does relate to each other, or how we are connecting in this way, partnering or collaborating. And so that's a piece that was existent during PNA Connect, and it's still like, that's for me the overflow. It's still happening. There's still connection taking place. My hope is that others will join in and join the PNA prayer ministry, and be praying for our PNA family as the year goes on. So thank you. But and for me, being able to see those connections take place while we're there, and that go beyond just the weekend.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's cool about that, I know you shared this with Devin and I, and then actually here at church on Sunday for our church family, because one of the things you mentioned at the top of this podcast, kind of in passing a little bit, but this part of what you felt God speaking at Connect, right? This invitation to like, hey, will you trust the prayers I've put on your heart, the prayers that I've put within you? Because not only has Carrie been on the PNA prayer team for a long time now, but she leads our prayer ministry here. And it wasn't until after Connect that she told me she has a lot of anxiety around praying and praying in front of people. And I was like, you have been doing this for like a year and a half, and you pray on Sunday mornings, and I didn't know you were anxious every time I asked you to pray. I'm so sorry.
No.
Which I just think
What
is
God
super
was calling
cool.
me to do. That was what he was calling me to do, to step
Yeah.
out in faith and just allow him to do this. And it's been a beautiful experience. Being on the PNA prayer group is just been a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
But I have had anxiety, and I have always felt like I'm not as eloquent. I'm always worried about I'm going to say something wrong, and not just letting God do what he needs to do. And I can pray to myself, by myself just fine, but praying out loud was a little bit different, hard for me.
Yeah.
But I felt like that's what God was calling me to do, and I've grown from this.
Yeah.
And being at the PNA Connect, I felt strongly how he was telling me, I just need to let go. It's not what I bring there. It's not I don't have to be perfect and say the right things. Let God put the words in my mouth.
Yeah.
And so I just need to do that. Just need to give to him.
Yeah. Well, and I think that story is so cool because it actually shows like a faithful obedience. Even, I mean, for a year and a half, you've faithfully obeyed in your anxiety. And so there's something in that for us. But also, I told you the other day, because we had our monthly prayer gathering, the first one since Connect a couple weeks ago. And I have been impacted by your prayers before, but that time, I have not heard you pray in such a powerful, obviously spirit-led way. And so even that, it's such a cool evidence of like the way that God will use our faithfulness and obedience even before we feel it or know what's happening. But then also the way that he will fill and show up when we're ready to receive and listen is just super cool.
Yeah, that's good. Well, as we wrap this one up, we're going to share some Kairos. So Kairos is time, but it's not chronological time, but a moment in time. What is there a sense that there's God's getting our attention, desiring for us to see where he is inviting us in, calling us to attention, and will we respond to him when we recognize here's what God's saying and here's how he's inviting me to respond. So I'll start and share my Kairos from PNA Connect. It's one that was carried on since then. We're 3-4 weeks away now in recording this, but it was what Jacqueline offered on Saturday when she said that God does not prepare us for and prepare us and gift us, equip us for something that's already happened. He prepares us and equips us for something that's coming. And for me, the Kairos is, okay, Lord, I desire to receive the preparation and equipping, but the trusting God for the thing that I don't yet quite have eyes for, I haven't quite seen, or, like I don't see the full road ahead. It's sort of, veiled. There's a little mist, but I could see like, here's the next step. That the Kairos for me is like, God invited me, will you trust? Will you trust me to take this step? Even if you're not sure what the full journey of this looks like, or if you have the full equipping or all the gifting that's necessary, will you trust that I'll prepare in you and equip you for the thing down the road if you'll just keep going? Don't wait for to be fully ready, but will you go? And that, from what Jacqueline offered, was a sense of like, okay, there is something down the road. There's something God's calling me into, and that desire to be faithful, even if I don't sense I'm fully equipped or ready to do that. I want to say yes. And so that's the invitation, but also the challenge within me is, will I be faithful to go, obedient to take that first step?
I think my Kairos is the being open to ministry. Because if I really truly am honest about it, like I felt the calling for a long time, but I didn't feel like I was in a place where I could be that. I didn't feel like I was Christian enough to be there. And, I'd been spending all this time trying to get there, trying to find God, trying to feel Him again, trying to grow closer in my faith. And just being there in that space and being open, I have this sense of belonging. Like I'm no longer trying to find where I'm at. I'm already there. And just that continuing to be open on, where I'm going to be led in ministry, and just keeping my eyes open. And, it's like every moment I'm spending with someone, I talk with a lot of people on the phone, and every moment I spend with them just feels like a gift, hearing about these people. And it's just, I guess, that openness to where God is leading me on this next journey.
I guess my Kairos moment would probably be trusting God. I think about the eagle and how it waits for the right wind, and God put everything together in perfection, how He wants it to move, how He wants us to be. And just trusting God and opening up and letting Him work on me, or let Him work through me, just giving that space for Him to do what He needs to do. That's probably the biggest thing that came from it, out of that, for me.
I think for me, it's been, just the importance of relationship, and whether that's relationship with the larger PNA family, or its relationship with those that we're in church with or in small groups. The importance of just being willing to enter into relationships and to see those, to see how God can work in the midst of those conversations, and both for our own personal growth, but then also for others. And it goes back to the time thing. It just takes time, and it takes usually a lot more time than what you think. And so just kind of holding on to that, and sitting in that a little bit, and just seeing where does God bring into our lives those people of peace where we can lean into, and just see God work.
Uh, Mine is specific maybe to this week, but tied to Connect in that, and it's coming out of Isaiah 40, which is the whole theme or focus of Connect. And a lot of that chapter is about reminding ourselves of who God is, so that we can trust Him in multiple different spaces. And I had last week was a rough week for me, especially towards the front end of the week. In the realm of trusting God and trusting the good things He gives and whatever. And partway towards the end of the week, I got a text from one of the other speakers that was at Connect, and it was pictures, 3 different pictures of eagles at the ocean. She was at the ocean. And these pictures just came through, and instantly there's this reminder, right? So now anytime I see an eagle, all of the things that we walked through at Connect and all of
Yes.
Isaiah 40 comes into mind. And so instantly I'm thinking, there was like this, oh, right, God, I remember who you are. And then even Devin and I were having a conversation yesterday, just kind of reflecting on like, man, why was last week so hard? And what's the invitation from God? And I think uh, it's the same reminder that comes out of Isaiah 40. Like, have you not seen? Have you not heard? Do you not remember who I am and what I've done? And I think part of the maybe next level of that Kairos for me, the thing that's crazy is that like I'm the one who gave that message at Connect about remembering who God is, and 3 weeks later I'm like over here in a rough space, which is kind of embarrassing. But also maybe what that is like this is what it is to be human and to need to constantly and consistently remind myself of who God is, and the need to be surrounded by people who are also going to speak that truth into me in those spaces and those seasons where maybe it's easy for me to forget. But to have people who are reminding me, like, don't forget who God is and what He's done. Don't forget who you are because of who He is, and that you can trust Him. And so, yeah, I think that reminder of like, Don't forget who I am, is what's sticking for me.
Well, and even as we were saying, Shreya, Isaiah 40 is because we've spent so much time in it for the last 7-8 months, in just one chapter of Isaiah, how it really it pervades every part of, and even pictures of eagles, like now all of that just comes rushing back, and I'm reminded of the truth of who God is. So may that also be true as we even move further away from PNA Connect, that there's reminders that we get drawn back to of this is who God is. This is how good he is. This is how big he is. And we get to be a part of that and call attention to it and call it out. So thank you for being on and willing to share your story. Carrie, Melissa, Matt, thank you so much. Appreciate telling your story and what God is still stirring in you from PNA Connect. And for those of you who are listening, thanks for joining us. And we hope and pray your conversations, relationships, and what God is stirring in you is going beyond Sunday, beyond the last thing you are at, but still hearing from God that he is stirring, he is moving, and he is calling us to himself. So thanks for being with us.
I love the PNA Connect because it's a chance to reconnect and connect and hear stories of what God's been doing around our PNA family, and it's good to be here.
I love the PNA Connect because the relationships that are represented here and just the collaboration and camaraderie of the leaders in our district.
I love the PNA Connect because, one, free coffee.
Way to go, New Horizons.
I think it's important because it's an opportunity for us to connect with other pastors and for us to know that we're not alone in this wonderful work that we get to do, and it's just a great time to connect with other folks.
PNA Connect is important because not only is it a space for us to come to say hi to people we haven't seen in a while, to build connection, but it's also the place that we get to come and hear collectively from God for what he's doing already, the way the kingdom's already breaking through in our district, and for what he's inviting us into going forward.
I love the PNA Connect because it's an awesome opportunity to reignite our flames as ministry leaders and connect as a family to get ready for the year ahead.
I love the PNA Connect because I love connecting with other people.
I love the PNA Connect because it's a great way to connect with other churches in the area, as well as other churches that are farther away that we don't always get to communicate with. I love the PNA Connect because it is a time to connect with fellow pastors and ministry leaders and to just pause, reflect, and be inspired to continue on the work of the ministry for the sake of the kingdom.
We love Frankie Boy Coffee! Woo!
As they go back to their respective locations and regions, Father God, I thank you, Lord, that they, Lord God, will expel darkness in that area because they are the carriers of your glory. In the mighty name of Jesus.